Hey ladies and gentlemen, what is going on? And today I've done a similar video like this before, and let's just say it didn't really get that much support. It was Venom, so I did a movie review on Venom where I reacted to critics and what they were saying about the film, and I was kind of a bit off and on with that film. I was a bit biased because I just liked it so much, so I kind of just had to go at everyone who said bad stuff about it. So I can kind of understand, and also I didn't really have good formulated ideas. I didn't really plan out what I was going to say. I kind of just went with the flow and kind of just said things that came to my head, which kind of just sounds like unprofessional, and it just doesn't sound good, and you have to have that when you're doing a movie review. I hope you don't rip my head off this time, and yeah, I just hear me out this time, okay? Just hear me out. Jesus Christ. I thought, why not? You know what? Fuck it, let's do it. I just want to say before we start, this is a spoiler review, so there will be spoilers put into this, big or small. If you guys haven't seen the film, I suggest you do not watch this video because it is going to be, I'm going to be talking about some spoilers in this video. So go watch the film, come back, then watch this, because I don't want a bunch of angry people in the comments having a go and ripping my head off because I spoiled the film for them. So if you don't want this film being spoiled for you, then stop now. Captain Marvel, let's talk about it. Captain Marvel, we'll get into my personal opinion at the end of the video. I'm going to show you what critics have given it. I don't know if you've seen it already, but these are reviews. So IMDb gave it a 7 out of 10, and Metric gave it a 65%, and Rotten Tomatoes gave it an 85%. Wow, Rotten Tomatoes is actually decent with its critics this time. Captain Marvel is the latest film to come into the MCU universe, and it stars Brie Larson as Captain Marvel. She's a Kree. But she's also human as well. She's half and half. And the Kree aren't really explained in the film. They're just the space police. Think like Green Lantern Corps, but without the rings. They have guns, basically. In the film, Captain Marvel is a part of a Kree task force, also known as Star Force, which is made up of a bunch of different, like the most elite members of the Kree army. And basically, we got a few familiar faces in there. I can't remember his name, but he's actually works with Ronan in Guardians of the Galaxy, so there's a few familiar faces in there. And Star Force is led by Jude Law's character called Yon-Rogg, and in the comics he's also an arch enemy to Captain Marvel. But basically, they go looking to hunt down a species called the Skrull. The Skrull shapeshifters who invade planets and shapeshift into the species there and take it over. And that's how they're betrayed by the Kree at the start of the film, and that's how it's portrayed to Captain Marvel, that the bad guys, and she has to hunt them down. Captain Marvel crash lands on Earth after a series of events that happen. She runs into a younger Nick Fury, still played by Samuel Jackson, and they kind of like go on a buddy cop journey together to figure out where the Skrulls are hiding, and along the way, Captain Marvel learns more about her identity and who she is, because as you realize later on in the film, she is being manipulated by the Kree, and her memories have been taken apart piece by piece and put back together in different ways, so that she always thought that the Skrull were bad people, but later on you figure out more about her memories and she discovers more about herself, and you get a better understanding of what's really going on and who's the real bad guy of the story. I'm going to start off with the good points in this film. So some of the good points in this film was Ben Mendelsohn's character as the leader of the Skrulls. Thought he was incredibly good in his role. Ben Mendelsohn always plays a villain. Like I just never, I've never seen him as a good guy. Dark Knight Rises, he was a bad guy. He was a bad guy in Ready Player One. He was a bad guy in Rogue One. He was a bad guy in Captain Marvel. And he's also a bad guy in Robin Hood. I know he's been in a bunch of other films, but those are the only ones that I have seen him in currently. My mates were very surprised when we were watching the film. They were tapping him in the shoulder and they're like, oh, this is weird, he doesn't sound like this, because they didn't know, and only a few months later I realized he was actually Australian. So he actually had his Australian accent in this film, and I completely think he should keep going with it, because it's so worth the Australian accent. I actually want more Australian villains in films like this, because it is genuinely just entertaining to watch with his Australian accent compared to his American accent, because he has to play American characters in all those other movies. So you never really actually get to hear his accent. Special ability that Ben Mendelsohn has is that even if a film is shit, he manages to be the good part in that shit film. So even if it is shit, he manages to be a good part in that film. So that's just something I like about him, and it's something I've always seen in films that he's involved in. Another good thing I liked about the movie were the Skrulls. Yeah, in the film they were interesting characters, and the movie did a really good job at humanizing them. They didn't just come across as a one-dimensional evil alien species who are taking over different planets like the Kree made it out to be at the start of the film. Characters like Captain Marvel. Eventually you learn throughout the film that they have families and they just want to survive, and they're human. They come across human by the end of the film, and that's what I really like about them, is that they're not just like evil bad people. They have families to look after. They're just trying to protect and make sure the species stay alive, because they're being hunted down by the Kree and exterminated. Something I also really liked was Nick Fury, the younger Nick Fury. He was played by Samuel Jackson in this film. Of course, who else is going to play him? I was surprised. I didn't expect Nick Fury to get this much screen time, but he did. I'm not complaining. I really liked him in the film. I thought him and his relationship and the character dynamics between him and Brie Larson, they just bounced off each other, and it was a really good match. And it added to that fact of a buddy cop film. I was very anxious going into it because I was kind of interested to see how Samuel Jackson would portray this younger Nick Fury, because this is not a Nick Fury we've seen before. We've seen the Nick Fury in the Avengers films who is experienced, knowledgeable about a lot of things because he's lived through those years and he's gained all that experience. This is an inexperienced rookie, level 3, I'm pretty sure, S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. You get to a different side of Nick Fury, and I really liked it. I was afraid going in that Samuel Jackson wasn't going to be able to portray this side of Nick Fury, but he did it, and I really enjoyed his portrayal of it. So, yeah, his presence on screen was amazing, and Samuel Jackson smashed it as Nick Fury. Something I was also very happy with was Brie Larson at the very start of the film. She came across as very likable and showed a little bit of personality to her, especially in the opening fight scene between her and Jude Law's character, Yon Rogg. She's kind of like shit-talking with him, and I just liked it. It showed her personality, and I was afraid that Brie Larson, Captain Marvel, would come across as a little bit too one-dimensional as a character, and yeah, I'm happy to see that she showed a lot of personality at the start of the film. I was just very surprised that they didn't put that in the trailers. I feel like if they put that in the trailers, it would have been a lot better, and it would have spiced up the trailer. It just would have made the trailers look a lot better. Something that I really liked about the film, because the film is set in the 90s, it relies heavily on winks and nods. It's like, oh, hey, look, there's the next nostalgia stuff over there, and it's like, oh, you recognize this because it's in the 90s, and it's like, that made me laugh. I actually like that. And yeah, it relies a little too heavily on it sometimes throughout the film, and it kind of is one of the only things that floats for me in the film. There's a few things, but that's one of them. But either way, I really like the winks and nods throughout the film. They just made me laugh, and I always enjoy watching that, especially in films like Ready Player One, where they did it all the time. So overall, I really loved the humor of this film. I thought there was like, the humor's just well placed, and it was very funny. It made me laugh all the time. Yeah, the cat was a very good aspect of humor throughout the film, and it was just, I like the cat. I'm glad that they put the cat in. I thought the acting of the film was great. The cast was well done. I thought it was good that they didn't involve Ronan the Accuser too much in the film. Of course, I wanted to see him more, because I liked him in Guardians. I just felt like he didn't really have a chance to show off the amount of power he had. And of course, he's not going to have the same amount of power he did in Guardians to this film, because he doesn't have the Power Stone. I just felt like we could have seen him do more, maybe an action scene with him. I want that. That's just me personally. I want that, but I know you can't really have it in the film because it just takes away, and there's already too much stuff in there. I'm still happy that they added him to the film and he was around one more time to see him. And who knows, if there's anything before his death, then maybe he can pop up again. I don't know. I just like him as a character. I like Captain Marvel's abilities. I thought they were really interesting. Her as a character, Brie Larson did an incredible job. She was an Oscar winner before she even came into this role, and it just shows why she's an Oscar winner. She just did an amazing job at portraying this character, and I just loved her portrayal. The plot wasn't bad. I thought pretty much most things flowed well. The end credits, I felt like some of them were very good, like the Endgame one where they're testing and messing around with the pager. I'm pretty sure, I'm not overly sure what it was called. But yeah, and then she just pops up behind them and she's like, "Where's Fury?" I really like that. I thought it was good. Like, don't show too much, but show a little. So the end credits, very, very good. I like those. The major problem I had with this film is it's like the 20th to 21st film in the MCU. I'm probably most likely wrong about that. I feel I'm wrong about that. Could be right. I don't know. But the fact that Marvel, it doesn't really matter. The fact that Marvel have made so many films, it just, I feel like they should now be getting onto the idea of they need something to connect with the audience in this film. The audience always needs something to connect with the film, and I felt like Captain Marvel didn't really give anything for anyone to really connect to. It's like a bunch of different things mixed in together. It's a self-discovery film. She's trying to figure out who she is. She lost her memories. She's trying to remember who she was before she was on the Kree home world, and before she became that warrior and got her powers. She wanted to understand, and yeah, it was just like, it was that. It was also a buddy cop film with her and Nick Fury, and they were traveling around with each other, trying to solve and find what the Skrulls were on the planet for. So it was like a fish out of water film because she hadn't been on Earth before, because she hadn't remembered anything about her. It wasn't like one thing. They didn't sit to one thing. It was multiple different things, and it didn't allow the audience to connect with it very well, in my opinion. I also felt like some of the relationships that Carol had with people like her longtime friend from the Air Force, Maria Rambert was her name. I felt like that relationship was a bit skipped. They had those moments where they're together, but they were very short and very rushed because the film had to move on to other things, and it had so much ground to cover that we didn't really get enough time to invest in those relationships, and I don't think I personally didn't see the connection with her and those characters that I wish I could have seen better. The problem is that the film just tried to squeeze too much stuff into it. At least it wasn't as bad as like Superman versus Batman. That was really bad example of a film trying to squeeze too many things into one film, and it just didn't work. This still worked. It just rushed slightly some of the relationships that we could have spent more time on if we had that time. So the movie is a feminist piece. Brie Larson has said this movie is a feminist piece. Kevin Feige at Marvel said this movie is the feminist piece. I don't like saying this because I don't like DC. I just think that DC did it better this time because Wonder Woman, in my opinion, is a better feminist piece than Captain Marvel. Wonder Woman is a feminist hero. It is an entertaining film. And she's also, in fact, very powerful. Especially in the scene where she's running across the Dead Man's Land and blocking all the bullets and getting everyone else to join her across, and like she's leading everyone. That scene gave me goosebumps, right? And I didn't really get any scene in this film that gave me goosebumps. Really. There's some things that shocked me, but you know what I'm saying? It didn't have the same pull like scenes in Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman just came across to the audience, or me personally watching the film, as more vulnerable, as not just as a character, but as a person. Like, Wonder Woman had layers to her. She was powerful, but she was also vulnerable. She was confident, but she was also questioned at times by people around her. And at times, she came across as a human being. And that's what the audience want to see. We want to know that they are, yes, we already know that they're very powerful and they are superheroes and they can do all these incredible things, but we also want to see the human side of them. Just like I said about the Skrulls, I really like the Skrulls and I changed my opinion on them because I got to see a deeper meaning to them and they had more layers. In Captain Marvel, she doesn't have those layers. She starts the film as a badass warrior, then she ends the film as a badass warrior. She changed her color palette on her outfit, and she now glows, and she has his power upgrades. That's cool and all. That's great. I love to see her, like, completely just smash after she was, like, being held back by the mechanics on the side of her neck. That I really liked, especially when she, like, shocked the all-knowing intelligence. I like that. Don't get me wrong. But that doesn't really show her character development. Like, there was character development in the fact that she figured out who she was, she understood her past, and because of it she was able to move on and finally unlock her true abilities and break free from this containment cage that the Kree put her in. But she started the film as a badass warrior, she ended the film as a badass warrior. It's not the same as Wonder Woman, where Wonder Woman started the film as that badass warrior, but she just changed over time. She added more layers to her as a person. She just started to become more relatable to the audience. I didn't see or feel that relatableness with Captain Marvel as I did with Wonder Woman. So that's why I think DC did it better. good point, but it's also a bad point. There was some great reveals in this film, like I said before, at the end there was some great reveals. Like how at the end of the film he sees in the photo of Brie Larson next to her jet fighter that it says Avengers on the jet fighter, so then he changes the initiative to the Avengers initiative, which we all know it to be from the Avengers films that we've seen in the past. So I really liked how they did that. I thought it was, I was like, oh yeah, okay, that's cool. But this just, well, I'm pretty sure everyone knows what I'm going to be talking about. The one that was just like, oh, well, that's how that happened, okay, and it's how Nick Fury lost his eye. I 100% know I'm not the only one that's pissed off with this. I didn't feel like Nick Fury losing his eye, that was just really stupid, in my opinion. It was not the right way to do it at all. It was very like, oh, we'll make it comedic and people will like it and kind of just get over it. The cat took his eye out because he held the cat up to his face and the cat just scratched his eye out. And I was like, okay, well, maybe his eye's fine, it was just a little scratch. And I'm like, yeah, but it has a scratch in Winter Soldier. So I was really worried because online it was a joke. Oh, the cat takes out his eye, like, oh. I was like, well, yeah, okay, that's just a joke. I really don't see that happening. And it happened. So it happened, I have to get over it, but I'm happy about it? No. Way more badass ways for Nick Fury as the character, which we all know him to be. Even though he's not the same character as a younger self of him compared to his older self is a lot more badass, but I felt like there could have been better ways to do it. Like, he still could have got a scratch if he got shot or something, if it just like went up or skidded past his eye. I don't know. Like, when they were closing up the door to the ship and the bullet skimmed through and hit Ben Mendelsohn's character, I just felt like maybe Nick could have gotten in the way and it could have hit his eye, and that could have been a cool way for them to do it. It just takes massive context out of other parts of MCU films, especially Captain America Winter Soldier. Like, last time I trusted someone, I lost an eye. Last time you trusted a cat, you lost an eye? Like, I was really hyped up for that. It's just, now when I watch back and I'm like, oh, you gotta keep both eyes open, and he's really serious, I'm gonna be like, yeah, and the cat did that. It just takes away from Nick Fury's badass personality as a character. Not completely, like, trust me, I'm not like, oh, fuck Nick Fury now because he's got scratched by a cat. It ruined some of those scenes that I thought like, oh, that's so cool. Like, there's probably something really special that happened to the eye, that he trusted someone, and I was like, maybe he trusted Captain Marvel, and then something happened, then Captain Marvel was sent away, but she just, like, left the page with him, and, like, I know we're not on good terms, but in case you want to contact me, you can. I would have liked it to have gone that way. Trust me, I didn't mind the way it ended. I loved the ending of the film, thought it was great. Great way to end it. I just thought it would have been a lot cooler, and it would have kept the mood of those scenes, and Nick Fury's personality and charisma as a character would have held up in Winter Soldier. By all means, this wasn't a regular cat, by the way. This was a Flurkin. This cat is pretty badass in its own right. Like, it took out all those Kree soldiers and, like, ate a few of them as well. And it ate the Tesseract at the end of the film. It ate the Tesseract, and then later on at the end credits, it spit it up. I was like, okay, that's cool. It's probably why Nick Fury kept the cat around. The thing I'm wondering about Goose is, where is Goose? Like, how are they going to explain that? Because he's with Fury. I thought he was going to go with Brie Larson. I know she's in space, but the cat is an alien, so I'm pretty sure it can breathe in space. I don't know. Tell me if I'm wrong about that. I don't really know the specifics about it off the comics. All I knew that it was a Flurkin and it had special abilities. I'm just wondering where's Goose been all this time, and I'd like to see how they explain that. Maybe Nick Fury has a special hideout where it's being taken care of by a person. Maybe Brie Larson has it currently. Maybe she came back for it. Doubtful, but, you know. My overall thoughts on this film is it is a good film. Personally reckon this film should have got an 8. The ratings by the critics aren't that bad. I would have given it a 7.5 maybe, or an 8 out of 10. Of course, it's better than most Marvel films that are, like, terrible. Like Iron Man 3, Iron Man 2, 4... The Dark World, like, those are just terrible. Do I think it's better than films like Black Panther or Thor Ragnarok? Maybe it was better than Thor Ragnarok, but Black Panther, no. I think as an origin film, it was better than Black Panther. I'm excited for Endgame even more now. They set the character up very well. They've introduced her into it, so now she's prepared. Everyone knows more about her. So they've done really well at setting up the character and giving more of a backstory to other characters like Nick Fury that we wanted to see more, like how he lost his eye and stuff like that. So it pays off all of that. Maybe not in the way that most people wanted it to, but it paid it off all the same. So overall, great film. I think you guys should watch it. Let me know if I've done a better job this time. I sort of planned out what I'm saying this time. If you didn't like it, then, you know, I'll just figure it out. But I'm probably going to continue doing these anyway because I really like doing the movie reviews. And I'll do more. I'll do non-Marvel films as well if you guys want. I just know more about the Marvel films and I have a lot more to say. Repeat what I said. Go watch this film. Great film. Is it as good as most Marvel films I've seen? No. It's in like the top 10 in my opinion. Maybe not the top, probably the top 5. But, you know, I'm very 50-50 with this movie. It has its down points, and I think that the critics weren't that off on the ratings. I don't think they were, like, completely trashing it. I think it was pretty accurate, so... look, I'm not complaining about the critics this time. Don't kill me for it. Go do something better with your lives, guys. See ya.